Hey friends, good to see you all. Aditya here is going to teach you model auxiliaries today. So here we begin with model auxiliaries. Well, let's start by learning what is models first and then we can jump onto the finite and the non-finite verbs. So what is a model or what is an auxiliary? So auxiliary is nothing but auxilium. Now auxilium means help or support. Hence, the meaning of the term auxiliaries is to help or to support. But whom do they help? So modal auxiliaries always help another verb. Or simply we can say auxiliaries are the verbs which help another verb. Right? So let's get started over here. Verbs are defined as finite verbs and the non-finite verbs. Yes? So what is a finite verb? A finite verb is a verb that carries a subject, which means if we have any sentence, and in that if we have any verb which has a subject before it, we consider that particular verb as a finite verb. On the other hand, a non-finite verb is a verb which does not carry a subject or it does not require a subject. Let's talk about finite verbs. Finite verbs are further defined as two verbs, that is, main verb and the auxiliary verb. So now we are going to first identify how auxiliary verbs are going to help the main verb. Remember the definition which says auxiliary verbs are the verbs which help another verb. Here we are with a sentence. We could send a message for the newspaper. Now in this particular sentence, we have two verbs. First is could and another is send. So in that manner, we have two verbs, could, send. In this case, the second one, that is the send, is always considered as the main verb. Whenever we have two verbs, the second verb is considered as the main verb. While the first verb is always considered as the auxiliary verb or helping verb. So now the concept is clear that which is the main verb and which is the auxiliary verb. It's time to move a little further. Auxiliary verbs can also be further classified into two different parts. So which are they? Here we are. One is the primary auxiliaries and another is the modal auxiliary. Primary auxiliaries, what is so special about them? So primary auxiliaries have three main functions or roles that it plays. First, they are used as auxiliary verbs. Yes, they can be used as helping verbs. Let's take an example. He is running. He is running. In this case, we have two verbs, is and running. In this case, the primary auxiliary, which is acting as the first verb, which we considered as a helping verb, while running is your main verb. Isn't that interesting? And isn't it easy to understand? Yes. Let's go with the next function. They can also be used as the main verbs. Let's use the same sentence, but in a slightly different way. He runs. In this case, do we have any other word or verb than run? Absolutely no. Because we have just one word, it is known as main verb. In a similar way, if we are trying to use a primary auxiliaries, it should work this way. He is a boy. Once again, we only have one verb here, and that is is. In this case, because is the only verb which is present over here in this sentence, this becomes your main verb. So if you remember in the previous sentence, we have seen he is running. Is running, two verbs. There is was acting as a helping verb. And here he is a boy, is the only verb, and that's why it is acting as a main verb. Now we are moving on with the third function. So what is the third function? They change with the subject. This is an interesting concept. Let's take a look at it. For instance, if we say, I am singing. If we say, I am singing, here the subject is I and am is the verb. Wait a minute. When we change the subject, the verb is also going to change. How? Let's take a look. If I say he, it will become is. So the sentence becomes he is singing. In spite of being in the present tense, both the sentence, the auxiliary verb is changing here as the subject change. What is the subject? So he. So when we change from I to he, am has changed to is. Isn't that interesting? Now these are all your primary auxiliaries. But there are more primary auxiliaries which are coming here. And what are they? So here we go with the list. These are all known as the primary auxiliaries. The do form, that is do, does, and did. The to have form, that is have, has, and had. The to be form, that is am, is, are, was, and were. So these are the three different primary auxiliaries that we are all aware of and that we should be aware of. So from them, if you are aware, I have used am and is. Very well, let's continue with the next. Now it's time to take a look at the modal auxiliaries. Modal auxiliaries only have two functions. One, they can be used only as auxiliary verbs. Let's take an instance. Let's say he can fly a kite. If I say he can fly a kite, here I have taken a help of one of the modal auxiliaries, that is can, and it is helping the main verb fly. What if I write it, he can a kite? If we write this way, do you think we can change? Do you think this can make any sense to the sentence? No, absolutely no. So can we use modal auxiliary as the only verb in the sentence? As a main verb? No. Isn't that easy to remember? Yes. So now it's time to go on to the second concept. The second concept says they don't agree with the subject, which means they do not change with the subject. So the options, the examples are I can play, he can play, she can play. In these three options, take a look here. I can play, he can play, she can play. It doesn't really matter whether I change the subjects, my auxiliary verbs remain the same. And this is your second point for modal auxiliary. So in this manner, we have two different types of two different factors and features of modal auxiliary. I hope everybody has understood the difference between primary and modal auxiliaries. Now it's time to stick to the main topic which we were supposed to do, and that is only modal auxiliary. So here we are. Here is a list of all the modal auxiliaries. Let's start. Can, could, will, would, shall, should, may, might, must, ought to, need to, used to, need not, and dare not. Once again, let's start. Can, could, will, would, shall, should, may, might, must, ought to, used to, need not, dare not. So in this manner, we have 13 modal auxiliaries that play different roles. Before we proceed with how modal auxiliaries are going to help you, let me give you a gist of all the functions that they play, the roles that they play. Let's take an instance for I play music. Now, this is a sentence which can act like a fill in the blanks. And if we try to put any modal auxiliary from here, check how the meaning of the sentence changes, how the mood or the state of the verb changes. Let's try. Let's try with can. If I say, I can play music, it shows my ability. Yes, I can. Can you play your music? Yes, I can play music. But if I write in may, if I write may, I may play music. This time it is not ability, but this time it is showing some possibility that I may or may not play it. If, right? Yes. So now it's time to change the sentence or the modal auxiliary. Let's take I shall play music. This time the meaning has changed again. I shall play music. That means it is going to show me a future tense, isn't it? Let's take another example. What if I say I must play music? Do you think it conveys a compulsion or a necessity? Yes. Or a suggestion? Yes. So in this manner, functions are really very important when it comes to modal auxiliary. That is what we are going to understand the next. So get ready, stay tuned, and here we go. Now, whatever you can see in the white are all the functions. Ability, permission, possibility, past ability, possibility again, polite request, and so on. So in this manner, we have every possible function for every possible modal auxiliary, right? It all depends on the sentence to which function does it play. So let's take an example. Let me explain to you few examples and then we will jump on to few practice sets and to master you. She could not repeat the line aloud 2000 times. Now here, first things first, let's identify the modal auxiliary. So which is the modal auxiliary here? It is could not. Very good. And the main verb is repeat. So repeat, which is the main verb, is helped by the helping verb or the auxiliary verb that is could not. Why not only could? We have to add not, which is a negative word, which adds up the negative sentence, right? Which makes the sentence negative. And hence, we are supposed to write, we are supposed to select could not. So once we have identified the word could not as an auxiliary, now it's time to choose its function. Now, could not has three main functions. One that is past ability or possibility or polite request. So, what do you think? Which one could this be? Is it a possibility? Is it that she is possible to read or read the lines aloud or repeat the lines aloud? No, it's not showing me the possibility. Is it showing me the request? No. Then, yes, it's showing me the inability of the person. She is unable to repeat the line aloud 2000 times. What if I read this way? Exactly. This is how it is going to help me find the function. Hence, could not becomes your past inability. In this opinion, both parties may be right. First things first, let's find the modal auxiliary. You have guessed it right. It's may, and it is a possibility. Why it is a possibility? Because in this case there are chances that any of the parties can be right. We never know. You must have made a mistake, or you must have made a mistake. It can be read in any different tone which you like. And in this case, if we want to find out the modal auxiliary, which one it could be? Yes, it is must. But in must, we have variety of options: compulsion, obligation, necessity, conjecture or probability, advice, suggestion. So which one it could be? What do you think? Is it compulsion? Is it obligation or a duty? Is it necessity? Is it a probability? Yes, it is a probability. Why? Because here we have a 50-50 possibility. The person must have made a mistake. There are chances that either the person A must have made a mistake or the person B. And hence we say it is probability. Likewise, let's go with the next one. You should have returned it sooner, said Madame Forestier coldly. Read this question properly, and here you will get the answer. Exactly. Now we have mastered in identifying the modal auxiliaries. So exactly it is should. But which function is it playing? Is it playing obligation, advice, suggestion, or probability? Yes, it is a suggestion. Look at the word which says coldly. Madame Forestier said it coldly. She was upset and she suggested this, right? If the person would have returned it, Madame Forestier would have used it somewhere. Yes? So let's go. This way it becomes your advice. Moving on. He said, you must write to your friend. Yes, must is the modal auxiliary that we have figured out. Now tell me, which is the function that it plays? Is it compulsion, obligation, necessity, or probability, or advice? You guessed it right. It is compulsion. You must write to your friend. He is in need. He has helped you indeed, isn't it? Yes. So in this concept, must can be used as compulsion. Till now, everybody has understood the concept of modal auxiliaries really well. And now it's time to practice and polish your thoughts. Let's try. Smoking can cause cancer. Exactly. Do we have any, does smoking has any ability to cause any cancer, to cause cancer to anyone? Yes, smoking has the ability to create a disaster in someone's life. And that's why we consider can as ability. Very good. Come on, moving on with the next one. Here we go. I can beatbox like Napalm. Again, another ability. Don't you think so? He can. I have the ability to beatbox like Napalm. Here we go with the third. It could rain tomorrow. It could rain tomorrow. Oh, yes. Could is the modal auxiliary, but which is the function that it is playing? Very good. It is the possibility. It it may rain tomorrow. Don't you think we can also use another substitute of modal auxiliary instead of could? Exactly. So could is a possibility. There is a possibility of rain the next day. Here we go with our last sentence for the day. May I use your phone, please? Exactly, may. Such a polite gesture, isn't it? And so we consider may as permission. So thank you very much. I am sure that everybody must have understood this concept. Now it's time for further practice with the sentences to polish your answers, to polish your concepts really well. So good luck with your practice and thank you so much for the session. See you again in another